What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Here's what I'm thinking about this week. I bought my house several years ago for a great deal because I think people were scared of the work that it entailed. It was livable, but outside, it's a almost 3-acre piece of property, and there was a ton of landscaping that had been left for years and years and years. Everything was overgrown. We saw the beauty in it and the potential in it, and so that's why we were able to get such a great deal. So for over 4 years now, we've been working nonstop. And again, the inside was okay. We've done a bunch of updates, but the outside has been ridiculously crazy. We've got woods around our house, and there's this vine. I'm sure you've seen it before. It's called bittersweet, and it has choked out so many trees. The past year or two, we've had several big storms, and in those storms, we've lost a bunch of trees. I think the last storm, 7 trees came down on our property. A couple of them humongous, and a couple of them on our driveway. So we were fortunate that our house didn't get hit. But here's what's weird about it. All of these trees that have come down were the trees I rescued from this bittersweet. This bittersweet root is like the size of my head round in some cases. I got to go there with my chainsaw and cut it out from around the tree and like girdle the tree so that it like freeze it. And then eventually it'll die and I could try to yank it out of the tree. Some of them I can't. But over years of neglect, that root just spun up the tree and choked it out. In fact, a lot of my trees only have leaves, starting at like 20 feet high. I mean, it's all the lower branches are gone. So last week, in a very minor storm that we had, another tree came down. So later today, I'm probably going out and with the chainsaw and having to cut that up, whatever. Also having a tough time this week, I think, in my spirit with bitterness, resentment. I don't know where it's all coming from, but I find myself anxious about things. I find myself, just I think dealing with bitterness and resentment. And here's the interesting thing and why I bring those things up. And again, I'm being vulnerable, not comfortable for me to talk about, but it's interesting how the Bible talks about bitterness and what it does in your life. And when you kind of get held up on not being able to forgive or just constantly thinking what could have been if this didn't happen, or all those things are kind of like bitterness and resentment. We maybe there's even regret built into that. But when we let that attitude kind of pervade our lives and we just can't let it go, it's like that root that chokes out all the trees on my property. It's interesting that that root is called bittersweet. It's got that word right in there. But that's what the Bible says happens when we let bitterness and resentment just build up in our heart and in our lives. There's this verse that says, get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. Instead, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Christ has forgiven you. And I think that that's where, again, easier said than done, but I've got to remember that Christ forgave me, and so I need to forgive other people. Christ didn't hold anything against me, so I shouldn't hold anything against other people, or for that matter, myself. Don't hold anything against myself. He mentions the word being tender-hearted, which guys don't usually use that word, but honestly, it's something that I want to make sure that my heart is always tender and soft and being teachable and humble. So that's kind of how I translate that for me. So I'm just going to encourage you. Maybe some of you needed to hear that today as well. Again, I can't explain it. I don't know why. I have good weeks, bad weeks. Sometimes I do great with this. Other times I don't. I think I need to. Here are some things that I would say, practically speaking, that might help you if you're dealing with bitterness and resentment. One of the things that I have to do is get off of like social media and stop reading people's posts, because I think sometimes resentment comes when I compare to other people, whether it's something they have and I don't, or I want and they have. So that's one of the things I think. I think the other thing is just practicing gratitude. I've talked about this a couple times already, but I think being thankful, being able to see the things around you that you can be thankful for, I think really, really is one of the key ingredients to getting rid of bitterness and unforgiveness and resentment. So I'm going to go out and cut some trees down later on. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to be thinking about how to really rid all of that out of my life, all of those roots that are gonna strangle out all the good, beautiful things that could grow in a healthy way. If I don't get to it now, it's going to choke out and die. So I think some of you need to hear that as well. If you're holding something against somebody else, or if you're just angry about whatever it is, don't let that sit. Deal with it, cut it out, and go from there. All right, man. Have a good day today, good week, and I'll see you guys next week.